Okay, lovely. So let me just explain my rather doom-laden and apocryphal title on this chart. I would love to be able to come here and stand up in front of you and say everything is rosy in the marketing garden, and to present loads of charts about how we are continuing to learn more and more about how to squeeze value out of every dollar we spend on marketing. If I said that, I would be lying, because there is a lot of really bad stuff going on out there at the moment. There's a lot of very dumb thinking, and I'm going to be talking specifically about 7 different problems that I think at the moment are really conspiring to ensure that we don't get the value that we should out of the evolving media landscape. So I'm going to get straight in really to the problem. But before I do that, let me just quickly introduce the kind of data. Let me just very quickly talk about the study. So this is an update, if you like, on previous work, the long and the short of it, that I published with Les Binet about 4 years ago. So in this paper, we first identified that there is a real problem that relates to the timescales over which we measure success. And that if we measure success in the short term, we come to completely the opposite conclusions about what drives success than if we measure success over the long term. Changes everything. Changes the kind of strategies we pursue, the kind of creative approaches we want to follow, and specifically it changes the media choices we make. It influences everything. It is a critical lens through which we need to view effectiveness. Okay, so it hardly had the ink dried on this report. Then the guys in digital all said, "Oh, Peter, that's so last millennium. You are so out of date. Things are changing so fast. It's just not true anymore." So I've listened to 4 years of this hot air from these guys, right? So what we're doing here now is we're taking the very latest data principally, and I'm going to cut the data in various ways. We're going to look at Web 1.0 versus Web 2.0, but for a lot of the more important stuff, I'm actually just going to be looking at the very latest data, 2014, 2016 IPA case study years. Because now we know we have an increasingly mature media landscape. All the key tools are there. Social is well developed. Search is immensely well developed. Online video is now a major force. We've got all these tools in place. In fact, the growth of time spent online in the UK is now just beginning to plateau. These are really interesting times. Let's see how the digital boys play as they're increasingly not able to rely on organic growth year on year. So really interesting times. Now, the data I'm using is the IPA data. This is the confidential data that is submitted alongside the written case studies in the IPA Effectiveness Awards competition. It enables us to do very simply one thing, to examine how inputs, in this case, particularly in the sense of media choices, influence business outcomes. And I have various business success metrics that we're going to be looking at. So it enables us just to see kind of what works and what isn't working, and particularly to look at that over different timescales, which, as I've said, is an absolutely critical lens through which we have to view. So we're only looking at digital era cases, and when I have to, I'm going to dial into the 120 or so cases that are very, very recent. And it's not just the number of cases, it's the rigor of the data, the depth of analysis that goes on behind them that we're tapping into here. Okay, so let's start. We have a problem, Houston. When we published the long and the short of it 4 years ago, we were still in the era of self-congratulation. We didn't have enough data to see what was really just beginning to happen then. And we'd seen this nice rising trend of effectiveness. Each year we seemed to do better than the previous year in squeezing value out of every dollar that was spent. Patted ourselves on the back and we said, well done. And then this happened. So this is aggregated data over 10 years. It tends to lag the apparent critical point, and it coincides quite clearly with the beginning of the global financial crisis. This altered both the mood and the practices of marketing and have unleashed an almighty fury of very, very damaging forces, the most important of which we've already mentioned is about short-termism. So I'm going to talk quite a bit about short-termism, but there's a whole host of other things that come with it. So it started then, and it's gained momentum ever since. It has given ammunition to people who would sell us lots of short-term tools and techniques, and they have made hay while it rained, effectively. So we've seen effectiveness drop. My real worry is that probably the 2 most important metrics for long-term success are in fact the ones we're just going to see in a moment that have led the decline. So throughout the back end of this period, prior to the global financial crisis, what we saw was these were either growing or stable. Market share growth, consumer penetration growth. Any of you who follow Byron Sharp and the Ehrenberg Bass Institute will know that if we don't drive new customers into our brands, we will not drive long-term growth. It's a penetration game, the most critical metric in marketing. But market share as well, a long-term metric of sales, nothing to do with short-term blips on the sales curve. These are vital. Those two metrics were stable or growing. They are the ones that have led the decline. Really, really sharp and worrying declines in our ability to drive market share growth and bring new customers in to ensure that next year's sales will be easier than this year's. So what's going on? The first hint at what's going on comes on this chart, which is that the one metric that seems to have been stable and grown over this period of time is what I'm going to call activation effects. These are those short-term responses to our advertising, whether they're online transactions, click-through kind of metrics, all of the kind of things that we are now so obsessed with. There's been an enormous wave of obsession and interest in driving those kinds of metrics. It's the one area where everyone is pursuing. But this is being achieved at the cost of defending brands. I'll just give you one metric. I could throw loads of you out there. But again, if you're a scholar, if you're a follower of the Byron Sharp School of Marketing, you will know that mental availability is a critical criterion for marketing communications. If we are not building mental availability, the sense in which that brand is seen to be vitally important to our customers, it has authority and cachet in its categories. If we're not doing that, we are not going to be driving long-term growth. So one metric that reflects that, our brand awareness, is in long-term decline now. Our ability to improve the saliency, the mental availability of brands is clearly in decline. I could chuck a whole load of other metrics at you, but I won't.